I'm Christina Alley, LMHC and past president for MHCCF. We hope you all enjoyed the time networking and meeting with your colleagues virtually. We know that that's something that's definitely been missing from the majority of our interactions with the ongoing pandemic. So thank you for joining us for that through the technical difficulty and all. MHCCF is looking forward to the return of our in-person meetings soon, but for now, our plan is to continue meeting virtually while we host a variety of our educational and enlightening presentations. Just a reminder about the collection of CEUs for participation in our virtual meetings. The Mental Health Counselors of Central Florida organization is currently approved as a provider with CE Broker for the Florida Board of Mental Health Counseling, Marriage and Family Therapy, and Clinical Social Work. So only clinicians pursuing continuing education units through the 491 board in Florida will be processed. Please keep in mind that in order to qualify for CEU credit for your participation in this virtual February 2021 presentation, you will be required to complete the post-presentation survey as well as the quiz, which will be sent to you via email if you've pre-registered for the event. Jim West has given us permission graciously to record his presentation today, and we will be offering this as an on-demand training. So future participants are welcome to return to our website to obtain credit for viewing this presentation material. So thank you so much for that, Jim. Upon receiving registrants' completed surveys, we will be submitting this 1 hour CEU credit on your behalf through CE Broker, and we will be sending a certificate of CEU completion to your email for you to keep for your records. If you have any questions, you may send an email to ce@mhccf.com. So now it's time for us to introduce our speaker. I'm looking forward to this presentation. Jim West is a licensed mental health counselor, the author of a Stress Less educational series, president of Total Life Counseling, and his group has been interviewed by local and national media on issues facing adolescents and families. He's a qualified clinical supervisor, and provides supervision to registered mental health counselor interns for licensure in the state of Florida. Jim is an author, communicator, school consultant, nationally certified licensed counselor, and he specializes in counseling for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, ADD, autism spectrum disorder, and oppositional defiant disorder, ODD. He is a subject matter expert and has been featured on multiple TV networks and news stations. Jim spoke on Fox 35 in the last year on Fortnite addiction, collaborating with a British psychologist who compared it to heroin addiction. He also highlighted his knowledge of electronics addiction in January of 2018, when the World Health Organization declared gaming disorder as an actual as a diagnosis. Additionally, Jim has always thought of creative experiential treatment approaches to reach those who might not respond well to traditional therapies. Jim has a unique way of bonding with children and adolescents through play therapy, PowerPoint presentations, interactive games, recreation therapy, and staying current with the constantly changing world of children and adolescents. Jim also stays current with adolescents through his 13 years of experience in youth ministry and speaks to students at school assemblies, youth groups, and conventions. Jim, thank you so much for giving us your time and knowledge today. We've been looking forward to your presentation of addictions in the new millennium, and the floor is yours.
Wow, thank you so much for that nice intro. I want you guys to know I just gave Summer like a 2-sentence intro for this talk, and she actually went and wrote that intro for me, and I'm like, wow, I didn't realize I did that much stuff, you know. And so Summer, thank you for that, and Christina for that warm introduction. So, you know, I did this presentation for, can you see my screen okay? Okay, so I did this presentation for the Florida Mental Health State Chapter on Tuesday, and it was the full 2-hour talk. It's a two-hour, 15-minute talk, and I just did that for them. So if you guys are part of that chapter, you can get that talk from them. you also can subscribe to our website, to our newsletter, and put a little note saying, I was at the talk today, with the Florida Mental Health Counselors Association, Orlando chapter. And just put a little note in there, and we will give you the whole talk, because we was kind of confusing, because I was like coordinating this talk with the state chapter and the local chapter with Summer, and I got mixed up, and I thought this was just going to be a talk on the 1 hour of electronics addiction. So I'm going to run through as much as I can with it, but if for some reason I don't get through all of it, you guys are welcome to, like I said, you can have the whole talk for free. I just want to give that as a gift for all the confusion, and that way we can meet our objectives, and you guys can have all the information, because we need a lot of therapists. There's just not enough to help deal with this problem with the electronics addiction and the depression that comes with it. And then also all the myths with the THC, and everybody thinking that it's just the old school THC, right? And that it's not, that it's okay, and it's good for you, and all these different things, that these are all myths, and we're going to be talking about that. So please access that information. If you get the video from us for free, you can get the whole 2-hour talk. Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about these things. I just mentioned these things just now, right? This is not your father's marijuana. Okay, we're going to talk about that. So we're going to first start with the video game addiction. We have, the smartphones, the tablets, and the social media. Video game addiction, has been described as is associated with depression, poor academic achievement, alcohol use problems, and conduct disorders. And I've seen it. I talk about this twice a day with my clients. So I see clients, and I also run the counseling center. So I'm really busy. We're helping a lot of people, but twice a day I am talking about video game addiction. And some parents don't even know their kids are addicted, and that it is the reason why their grades have dropped, or the reason why they have quit their sports teams, or they can't get them to go to Ruth Chris Steakhouse. It's just insane how addictive, they made these video games, right? So what is video game addiction? Well, the World Health Organization, by the way, if you go into your DSM-5, it's actually defined in your DSM-5 of course, that was put out in May of 2013, but you'll see that there's disorders that the board is considering for future editions of the DSM, okay? And so it's in there, as a future disorder. So they've been thinking about this for a long time. So, but anyway, gaming addiction is basically impaired control over gaming, increased priority given to gaming over the activities, to the extent that gaming takes precedence over other interests and daily activities like school, right? And homework and chores, and continuation or escalation of gaming despite the occurrence of negative consequences. So what does that sound like? I mean, you could just put alcohol or drug addiction into this and change gaming and put alcohol, or it's the same, almost the exact same definition as it is for drug addiction, right? So there's Dr. Sigmund, who is a neuropsychologist, was talking about how this whole playing games in a virtual world leads to a false sense of competence. And we have kids going, I'm just going to compete down at Full Sail, and I'm going to win $1 million, or I'm going to win $3 million. And I've had a client that got in the top 51 in the country. So you have to be in the top 50 to get into that, that Super Bowl of video games, right? And he's obsessed, and he's up all night, and he has to play like 10 to 12 hours a day to be competitive. And if he doesn't, he loses his edge. And of course, he's frying his frontal lobe in the meantime, right? Well, then you have kids with autism who are getting sucked right in, and ADHD that have these vivid imaginations. And if the world is not a happy world for them, like they're, like with ADHD, getting in trouble at school and not getting work done, and your parents getting mad at them at home for not getting their work done, not doing their homework, not doing their chores, not going to bed, not getting up and going to school. So the world's just so bad and so negative to them that they just get lost in this virtual world, and they feel so powerful, right? So that's what she's talking about. So claims of better hand-eye coordination from studies. Well, who sponsors these studies, right? That's the video game companies. Fast use of game console controller is of little use in the real world, right? So, that's, and then of course they're losing attention because they're burning up and using up all their dopamine when they're playing these video games, and then they can't focus when they have to do schoolwork and homework and chores. There are concerns among neuropsychiatrists that this dopamine being produced every single day for many years through, for example, playing computer games may change the reward circuitry. And by the way, it is changing the reward circuitry in their brain. Not may, it actually is changing. And I've seen it, okay? And I've seen it change back too, with our approach. And I'm going to hopefully share that with you before we end today. So they may change that circuitry, which makes them more dependent on their screens. Okay, how about this? The American Journal of Drug and Alcohol Abuse chimed in. Now this is crazy because the American Journal of Drug and Alcohol Abuse is supposed to talk about drugs and alcohol, but they're talking about how computer game playing may lead to long-term changes in the reward circuitry that resembles the effects of substance dependence, okay? So they're talking about this because if you did an EEG on the brain of a kid doing various drugs and you put their video game addicted kid up on there, put their picture of their brain up there on an EEG, it looks like they're on ecstasy, okay? It looks like ecstasy. So man, they when they tried to make it addictive like drugs, man, they hit the target and they hit it well. Okay. All right. So let's watch a video of the Fortnite addiction video that let's see, that Christina talked about. Okay.
Doctors are warning parents about video games, saying they can be just as addictive as drugs. A British researcher now even comparing it to heroin, saying some young players are going into rehab because of it. The researcher says she has double the number of kids in rehab for gaming compared to 2 years ago. Once you're hooked, she says it's hard to get unhooked.
And joining us right now to talk about it is Jim West. He's with Total Life Counseling. Great to have you, Jim.
Thanks for coming back. We appreciate you.
So this is disturbing, right? Because every parent struggles with this. The devices in the house, how much is too much? What do you want people specifically to know about this particular game, Fortnite?
Well, they're just getting better at making games more addictive. It really started way back with World of Warcraft. And you heard about people getting divorced back then, about people playing for 36 hours straight over a weekend, not sleeping and
that
just
was
playing
my uncle
and not moving.
Doing that,
and so
36 hours.
Minecraft was addictive. We called it Minecrack, like a play on words. But then we had Roblox can be addictive, and then there's Grand Theft Auto, which is even banned in some countries. And now there's Overwatch, and it's just people are getting sponsored. And if you want to be sponsored by the video game companies,
you got to play it 100 hours a day,
exactly.
Right?
And then so the big deal about Fortnite is you have to play a lot to beat 1 out of 100. It's called Battle Royale, and you have 100 people you're playing against, and to be number one, you've got to play for hours and hours and hours to be the best.
It's interesting because my oldest son does play Fortnite, and he said, "Mom, come play it with me." And you know how you want to bond with your kid?
Sure.
Took me 2 minutes, and I was like, can't do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't for me. But I do find that he tended to play it so much, we took it out of his room. We took the whole console out of his room.
Good for you.
And guess what? Now he's doing other things with his time. And I think sometimes it gets to that point because of the addictive nature of some of these games.
Exactly. And really, you can be addicted to anything. For me, it's cheesecake. Okay.
Right? Well, for me, it's chocolate.
Pumpkin cheesecake. Okay. And we have to find ways to have limits with things.
But kids are different than us because we're adults. So we know, okay, if I've had too much chocolate, I know when I've had too much. If you've had too much cheesecake, kids don't know when they've had too much Fortnite.
Right. I mean, over Thanksgiving, a kid had 8 slices of carrot cake, one of my clients, right?
Gosh.
And why? Because Thanksgiving, nobody's watching the cake.
Yeah.
Right? But when they're watching, we limit things. And so it's the same thing with Fortnite. I've actually watched a client play this in my office, okay? And we download it, let them watch it. It doesn't seem like a bad game. It's just how much they play. So the American Association of Pediatrics issued guidelines saying that if you're 6 to 9 years old, you need to play outside for 150 minutes just to get 30 minutes of electronics time.
Wow.
And that counts social media, that counts YouTube, okay? And then when they're 10 to 11 or 12, they get an hour with 3 hours of interaction outside.
Jim, how do I know when it has crossed the line from normal to abnormal? Is there a barometer?
You know what? We've got kids quitting teams, sports teams, We have parents bribing their kids to go to Ruth Chris Steakhouse, like their favorite steakhouse, just to get them out of the house and hope that they'll go hang out with them. So, I mean, when it's like that, when they're not engaging in normal activities, that's when it's a big problem. Or when their grades are dropping at school, and it's just like any addiction, even and like drugs. I mean, smoking pot. People don't want to leave when they get so high, they get paranoid, they don't want to go out. They become like a hermit, and they don't want to do just the normal things and interact with society.
And I know we have to wrap, but I can't leave without asking you this. Why is it so addictive? I guess I don't get it. Why is it so addictive? Why can't these kids just put it down and walk away?
Right. Well, when you're playing video games, when you're eating cheesecake, when you're doing drugs, if you're drinking alcohol, it releases dopamine, and that's the reward circuitry of the brain. And the more they play it, it rewires the reward circuitry, and it tricks the brain into thinking the only way to be rewarded, in other words, the only way to have fun is to do this, not be with people, not go play outside. I actually tease some of the kids in our social skills groups, because we work with autism and ADHD, and we tease them and go, hey, there's a new game called Outside.
Want to go play?
Yeah, you want to go play? And you don't need virtual reality glasses. You can smell things, right? It's got all the senses. You can touch it, right? You know. So,
but the good news is you can unwire and
yes,
you can go back to normal.
Yeah, we put those limits in place, and then the kids interact. They rejoin their sports teams because they're bored.
They're bored.
I had kids say that. Yes.
Oh wait, I can't play my game anymore. I got to play soccer.
Exactly. Yes.
Life
Great
counseling.
advice.
It's my pleasure.
Appreciate
Good to see
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, sure.
So you guys, if you ever want to watch that video, you can go on our website, totallifecounseling.com, and under services, you can see, we have like children, teens, right? And then over here is the video game. You can just click right there, and you can please share it with your clients. That video, it just really helps them. It really helps a lot of my clients to really get it. The kids really watch it. I mean, they get it. Like, the kids get it. That's what you want, right? The parents want the kids to buy in. So I have several more. I have the World Health Organization, the videos on here. That's it right here. There's several of those on here that you can do. Anyway, okay. So let's continue. Let's see here. I got to move this video screen. Here we go. Move the video screen so I can. All right. So, you guys know that everybody's on their electronic devices. I mean, that's really what that's about. And that's linked to higher reports of loneliness and shyness, which of course, and then you throw in COVID, and people are even more isolated. They're socially and, physically distancing, and they really should just physically distance and socially connect still. And, so the kids are thinking, oh, I'm connected because I'm on social media, and that's how I'm connecting with my friends, and they're not getting together as much, and it's not good for their depression, and then they're feeling lonely, and some of them are suicidal. In fact, we're seeing a massive increase in social media, of body image issues and depression, and this and then there's this partial attention, people holding up their phone, and kind of talking to their kids like this, or their friends are doing it, or they're texting each other right next to each other because they don't want to have a conversation in person, because what if they're asked a question and they haven't developed that part of their brain to answer a question like that? They have to actually, like a news interview, like the live news interview. Man, you got to really be able to respond like this. And a lot of kids aren't going to be able to do it because they're just so used to having time to think and text, what they're going to say, right? So there's the whole blue light thing, what does that do? It simulates sunlight. And so if you're on your phones at night, in fact, my wife is used to be on her phone. Like when she would wake up at night to go to the bathroom, she would pick up her phone and look online. And every time she did that, it would wake her up, and then she wouldn't be able to go back to sleep, and she'd be up 4 times a night going to the bathroom. So then she wakes me up. And so, right. So we did the research, and we found out we just turn our phones into airplane mode, not just do not disturb, but full airplane mode. It shuts all the stuff off. It shuts off Wi-Fi, shuts off the data, right? It just turns everything off, and it gives your brain a break. And now she only pees once a night, right? And that's okay, right? So don't tell my wife I said that. No, she won't care. So, but anyway, there's of course the like button, the swiping down on our phones, just going, woo, it's just like, oh, it's like a slot machine, right? And that's that is of design. It is by design to make it like a slot machine, because slot machines make 80% of the money in a casino. It's not the poker tables, the blackjack, it's those machines. And man, when you pull down on that, and it's like hypnotic how those numbers, numbers and fruits and gold and all these like shiny little images go up and down, right? And that actually, makes you want to keep doing it. It puts you into this state, okay? So it's designed to satisfy negative sensations like being bored. Oh, I'm bored. And then what do parents do? Oh, here's my phone. Hey, can I have your phone? Can I play a game? And that's what parents are doing. And it was crazy. I was on vacation at St. Augustine with my family, and my kids were sitting at the table, and we don't give them devices. They're 3 and 6 years old. They don't get the device. And so what happens is they play and they interact. Oh my gosh, they interact. So what's funny is we're like apologizing to the tables around us. We're like, we know this is a romantic place and we're so sorry. Our kids are like, well, you know what they told me? Almost nobody said, thank you for taking care of your kid. They all said, oh my God, it's amazing to see your kids playing and not having a device and interacting. We haven't seen that forever. We never see that. And it's so sad that the kids are, that we're giving these devices to deal with our kids' boredom, right? So we have increased suicide because of social media. We have, people are spending more time on it, and they see people's perfect images, airbrushed images, Snapchat images online, and within 3 minutes, they are depressed. Now, before social media and Instagram, and, people were looking at women's magazines, like with models on them, and they would look at those for three minutes and get depressed. Well, now you don't have to buy a magazine or have a magazine or see it in a doctor's office. It's always with you. And so people are getting depressed every day, looking at these images and these perfect people and these amazing vacations. And we've posted our pictures too. And people, get jealous of other people looking like they're happy and not posting real life. Okay. So I will tell you this, one of the things that really did come out that was good with social media is because kids aren't getting together as much, which is really sad. The teen pregnancy has been has reduced and has been credited to social media because kids are not getting together as much. So that's the bonus. That's the silver lining. But otherwise, for the most part, social media does not really have much of a purpose. Okay. I like connecting with my friends and my family on social media. But what's interesting is when you do that, you don't have to call them as much. You don't have to call your friends. Hey, how's it going? Oh, well, didn't you see on social media they graduated? Oh, that's right, I did. We don't have to call our family and go, hey, it's been great. Oh, congratulations. Or, hey, they did a great job in that baseball game. No, you don't have to, because you see it all online. And then you see all your people from high school. You see everybody you met in college that you're friends with, and you're online constantly trying to keep in touch with all these people. And it's impossible to maintain that many relationships. Meanwhile, you're not going out and hanging out with people, right? So social media is a gate to suicide. We've seen 137% spike. If you go on watch The Social Dilemma on Netflix, highly recommend that the kids watch it with their families and do a report on it and talk about it and discuss it together. And, maybe before they even give them back their device. And then also take off some of the social media apps that they really shouldn't be on, like Snapchat. The kids should not be on Snapchat. My neighbor is an attorney who goes to court constantly because kids are getting expelled for basically distributing child pornography and sharing it with their friends at their schools. And she's the attorney for these schools, and basically saying to the parents, if you really want to take this to court, your child it's going to be exposed what your child did, and then they will get labeled as a sex offender, or they will have to go to deal with those types of charges. So you really should just lick your wounds and talk to your kid and get them off Snapchat. And she's a consultant for First Academy and Highland Prep and Montverde Academy and Park Maitland. She's their attorneys, and she basically does these talks at their schools and says, guys, my kids don't have Snapchat. They did not have Snapchat at all, because you've got to be really mature as a teenager to have that. Okay. It's because, even random people at your school girls or guys will send dick pics just to random people at school and ask for their picture. And most of the people may not respond with a picture, but then some of them do. And for them, it's worth it to do that, right? So yeah, we already said that. Okay, here is the guy who helped make the like button, okay? And basically what he did was he basically got addicted to the technology. There's an article on The Guardian, theguardian.com. You guys can look it up, but basically it's an article talking about how technology guys, Silicon Valley guys, are disconnecting themselves. They're taking drastic measures to, combat the addictions they created, okay? So in fact, their goal was to make things like heroin. And so if you look at my third bullet, Justin Rosenstein got himself banned from Snapchat. Now, I don't know how he got himself banned from Snapchat. I don't know how bad of a picture he had to send to get banned or what he had to do to get banned, but he got himself banned because it was like heroin to him. Heroin, that's crazy. One of the most addictive substances that we know of right now, okay? And he got himself banned. He also, in the article, he wrote, he changed the operating system on his computer so he could not go to Reddit because Reddit was so addictive. And that's one of those apps and websites that's really missed as being so addictive. There's Discord, there's oh gosh, what's the other one? Instagram, that can be very addictive, but it's also the gateway into sex trafficking. Sex traffickers are putting all these girls out there wearing barely nothing. Oh, of course, TikTok is highly addictive as well. I think TikTok even rates their own app as 17 and up. And how many 9 and 10 and 11-year-olds have TikTok videos and are watching very provocative sexual videos and horrible lyrics to songs talking about genitalia and just like just horrible, degrading women's songs, and their girls are dancing to these songs and shaking their butts on video. It's crazy, with G-strings on and wearing very little clothes. It is so provocative, guys. So TikTok is one of those things you really want to take a look at, because even though your kids might just be doing these innocent, sweet videos, there's very little parental controls on TikTok. There's very little control on that site. And even TikTok is saying that it's 17 years and up for their site, okay? So Leah Perlman hired a social media manager to monitor her Facebook page, so she does not have to do it herself. Justin Rosenstein had parental controls put on his iPhone, and later, after I made this presentation, he went on 60 Minutes and now has a flip phone. And if you watch The Social Dilemma, the guys that make this stuff addictive will not give this drug to their kids. They do not have phones. Their kids do not have these phones. Steve Jobs did not give his kids an iPhone or an iPad. I'm sorry, he did give them an iPad. I think he might have given them iPhones, okay? So guys, think about that. So if they're not willing to do it, in other words, they know how bad it is, when is it the right time, and be really careful about giving kids phones, and make sure you've got lots of parental controls on it and limits on it. And we'll talk about that more too as well. How about this? This is a book, guys. You can go buy this on Amazon. Hooked, How to Make Habit-Forming Products. Okay, look at this quote here from the guy. The technologies we've used have turned into compulsions, if not full-fledged addictions. It's the impulse to check a message notification. It's the pull to visit YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, just for a few minutes, only to find yourself still tapping and scrolling an hour or hours and hours later. None of this is an accident, he writes. It's just as their designers intended. And they just put it right out. It's in the book. It is in the book, guys, that this is how you do this. And it's funny because I had a guy who was probably late 20s, and he's a consultant, and he helps make technologies addictive. He goes, oh yeah, I've read this. And I read all of these books on how to do this. And he brought me his son because his son had video game addiction, and his son was 6 or 7 years old. Okay. So this is what we're dealing with out there. So what do? Well, we set boundaries, right? Just like on the Fortnite video, we set boundaries for candy and cheesecake and playtime. We set boundaries for this as well. This is a great book by Catherine Adair. And she basically says the big disconnect that there's a risk really for kids up to age 2 and 3 to 5. Okay. And so we really should limit that and like just kind of limit to like high quality programming for kids 3 to 5, but really shouldn't be watching TV, you know, the first 2 years of their life. You know, when you hand, she basically says, when you hand the kids like an app, like a game or your phone or like a game like Angry Birds, this is a completely different way of teaching a child to deal with frustration and boredom, being tired or cranky. So you're creating neurological pathways in your child's brain that when you're bored, I guess I get a phone. And then the kids act out more and more and more so that you'll give them your phone and you give them the iPad or you'll put them in front of a TV. What is the right amount of technology? Well, the question came to the American Academy of Pediatrics, which recommended nothing under 2. And the AAP states that the child's brains are rapidly developing at that age and should interact with people instead of screens, right? I mean, huge things going on in that first 3 years of their life. You know, there's language development, and they don't process like foreground and background noises very well. They need to just have one device or one stimulus to interact with, and it should be people. You know, it should be siblings. It should be other kids their age, right? Or their parents, okay? So the French government basically banned baby Einstein. It doesn't say that on here, but if you think about it, you know, anything geared toward kids under age 3 was banned, okay? In France, because they realize what's going on. How about this one? Taiwanese parents are actually legally bound to monitor their kids' screen time under the age of 18, and they are fined, okay, if they don't. So think about that. Well, why is that? Well, in Taiwan, they make these devices. They make our devices, and they want their kids to get it before us, before our kids get it. Oh, because we want our kids to be like them, okay, like the Western people. Well, I mean, you know, we're seeing obviously that's not helping, but they're doing something about it, and we're not. We're not doing anything about it. The government, you know, had social media on the ropes a few months ago, and they could have had them deal with cyberbullying. Like they mentioned it, they talked about it. You know, I think Lindsey Graham talked about it. Like, hey guys, we've got all this depression. There's the social dilemma that came out, and we need to be doing something about this, but we haven't done anything. They could actually be doing cyberbullying for us. They could have algorithms that they could put on all their sites to limit all the, you know, the bullying and the exploitation, you know, of women. And, you know, there's, you know, they can do that, but they're not doing it. So before 2 years, no screen time, 3 to 5, 30 to 60 minutes of high quality, 6 years old to 10 years old, 1 minute of screen time for 5 minutes of social or non-electrics play. Now listen, this is actually Catherine Adair's her limits that she puts. This is not the American Academy of Pediatrics. They're kind of similar in the beginning 5 years, but then the American Academy of Pediatrics says, oh, if they're between 6 and 11, give them an hour to an hour and a half. And then if they're 11 to 18 or 17, give them like an hour and a half to 2 hours. Well, what I have found actually rewires the reward circuitry is when we take about 2 weeks of making them socialize, in a case of a 6 to 10-year-old kid, socialize 150 minutes to get that 30 minutes of electronics time max. That over 2 weeks starts to rewire their brain, okay? I had a middle schooler who did this, the 11 to 12, you know, where he did 3 minutes of socializing to get 1 hour of screen time. And it took him about a month to do it. But then I remember him bragging to me and saying, Jim, the last 3 weeks I've played the video games twice. And I'm like, why are you telling me this? He goes, well, because I don't really miss it as much. And I'm going out and I'm riding on the ATV, or I'm going swimming in the pool, or I'm going out to hang out with friends. And this is during COVID. And of course, I had the parents actually I give them this information to their parent group, like the parents of his friends, and they educated each other on this, because a lot of parents I talk to say, well, if he goes outside to socialize, there's nobody out there because kids are addicted to their devices, right? And so I have the parents educate the other parents of their friends, because they all care about their kids and they want their brains to develop, right? So there's all these resources. We got this addictions video that you could share the link for to them and they could watch it, or you could share the handouts that I'm giving to you and let them watch those videos, those news interviews that are on my website, which, you know, whatever it takes, but help them to give them the tools to educate the parents around them. And then now they'll have friends to play with outside. And it worked, guys. I did it. I had 2 kids over COVID over the summer that went from no friends to friends hanging out with them to friends calling them to hang out. That was huge. That was big. Both of them had autism, high functioning autism. Okay. So no, one was ADHD and one was high functioning autism. And I've got several others that I'm doing social coaching with currently as well. Okay. It's fun. It's rewarding. It's hard work. I know one mom was pulling out her hair and was about to give up. But we finally made that shift, right? On the video, I talked about the kid who was quitting sports teams. Well, he was actually on a swim club at one of the private schools, and he quit the swim club, and the parents didn't know why. And I'm like, well, how much video games is he playing? And they go, what does that have to do with it? And they didn't even know like how addicted these games were. This was just like a year and a half ago, I think. And they bribed him with Ruth Chris, like I said on the video. And so we did this, we put him on this protocol, the 16-year-old protocol of 1 minute of socializing up to 2 hours to get 2 hours of video games. And we count, PE time, we'll count swim club, we'll count lunchtime at school, and then, socializing with the parents or playing a board game or going outside to play, or, dinner conversation, talking in the car with the family instead of being on their devices, which we don't recommend them being on devices in the car. We want them to talk. Boys actually talk better in motion. Okay. Pardon me. So basically that kid, I saw him weekly. The first week I saw him, he still didn't rejoin the swim club, but he was limited to the 2 hours only if he did 2 hours of socializing. Plus he gained 2 hours of sleep for a week, which sleep is number one for mental health, right? Very important. So when we did that, he, the third session I saw him, which was 2 weeks after the intake, he said, Jim, I got good news. I go, what? He goes, I joined the swim club. And I go, why? He goes, I was bored. So he rejoined the swim club. After I did that Fortnite interview, what was interesting was I went to get my hair cut. Probably should have done that before the interview. But anyway, I went to get my hair cut afterwards, and the lady next to me was getting her hair washed, and she said, oh yeah, I had 2 guys quit my team to play Fortnite. 2 guys quit the volleyball team. So this is an epidemic, guys. We're losing a generation to this, as well as the nicotine and the THC, guys. Okay. So here's some more things. No electronics in the bedrooms. These are all in your handouts. Okay. So I'll let you guys kind of look over that, but removing background noise. Don't walk into the room, turn the TV on and walk out. Keep everything off, talk, have interaction, limit that, the TV time to when you're actually sitting in front of it. Right. Because multitasking is really tough for kids, and deep concentration in kids will lead to better, more creative thinkers. And so I'm going to tell you something, the creative thinkers are going to be the kids that are not on their devices. And so that's going to be the kids that hopefully we educate, but also right now it's the kids that their parents are in the technology industry. Take a gap between screen and sleep. So 30 minutes to an hour. Okay. Being overstimulated is worse than being bored. I like to tell kids, I remember asking myself to be excused after I was done eating, and my parents would make me sit at the table, and I hated it, and it was boring because they were just talking. But that's how I learned to socialize, is talking. There was a Penn State study about that, I think back in 2011 or 12, okay? So learning to cope with being bored leads to greater self-sufficiency and creativity, and learning how to interact and be a part of the conversation. And then it's less boring, correct? So screen time is usually sedentary. So getting the child up, of course, we have obesity. 1 in 3 kids are overweight. 1 of 5 are obese. So that's also fructose. High fructose corn syrup causes that problem as well. Social activity, don't fool yourself thinking that being on Facebook and talking online while gaming all day is social. Nonverbal communication is 80% of communication and is missed with technology. So what are some of those hobbies? These are the things they can do, to earn their socialization time. WeZiff.com by Net Nanny is an awesome, is a great tool. And by the way, it also helps with cyberbullying. It has algorithms for cyberbullying, for porn, for hate speech, for sexual, like sexting, so it doesn't get everything, but it does, a good job. you know, and of course, you know, parents are like, well, can they get around it? Yep, they can get around it, but you have a social media contract with them. You know, if you get around it, then you're going to go to a flip phone, you know, for a week, and get a cheap flip phone, and you're going to be on that for a week if you, you know, get around these, you know, and if next time it'll be 2 weeks, next time it'll be 3 weeks. And then, you know, they'll get over it. Don't try to be their friend, be their parent. So bark.us is a cyberbullying app that barks, and it monitors 24 apps. But I'm going to tell you that it's very limited what it can do for Snapchat. Snapchat has actually locked out the ability for people to use these types of apps. So that's why it's just good not to even have it, guys, not to have Snapchat. And of course the kids like, well, all my friends communicate through Snapchat. Well, of course they do, because they can, their chats can disappear and they can have privacy. But I think most of us that know from experts in our own training that secrets with kids, with teenagers is not a good idea. Like, too much privacy is not a good idea. How many times do you hear from parents that say, oh my God, I read my daughter's journal and she was talking about suicide, and that's why we're here today, right? So these are, you know, we don't want to have secrets with these kids. How many times does a boy commit suicide? I mean, when a boy tries to commit suicide, they're usually successful 9 out of 10 times. It's really, really scary when a guy wants to commit suicide. So we need to be on their Discord app. We need to be, you know, on all their social media apps. We need to be, you know, whatever one that you agree for them to be on, you need to be one of their friends, and, you know, you need to be able to see what they're doing, and they need to check in their phone every day so you can take a look at what's going on. The nice thing about WeZift is it just kind of lets you know what you need to know. So you don't have to really be reading all their messages, so you can give them some privacy, but not, you know, but also, like, Net Nanny can just tell you the messages that you need to be aware of, like the bullying and all that kind of stuff. Okay. All right. So iPhone has some good parental controls. Bob the Timer. This actually plugs into the end of a power cord, and it locks the power cord on for their gaming device, like, you know, like Nintendo or PlayStation or Xbox. But I will say that Xbox does have some settings in there where you can actually schedule how much they actually play. What's nice about WeZift, if I go back to, WeZift, basically with WeZift, it does all devices like computers and tablets, and, you know, but it doesn't do Xbox and PlayStation. So if you don't know how to set up the controls, you can actually just plug their PlayStation into this, and then they punch in a code when they're done with their chores and their homework, and they've done all their socialization, and then they can punch a code in, and then it turns on and it turns off when their time is gone. So it's a really cool thing they could buy on Amazon. Okay. So, okay, guys, just real quick, I'm going to let you know before, I know I'm going to go into the THC talk, but we're basically offering you, you know, we have the whole Stress Less series with ADHD, depression. We're offering you guys $125 off, basically. You just use this code and you get the whole Stress Less series for that price. Of course, I told you I'm going to give you the one video for free today because of all the confusion, just to help you guys out, get the word out too. And then if you want to buy 3 combos, just email us and tell us which one you want for free. And then that's the email. Okay. If you go to totallifecounseling.com shop, that's how you guys can do that. If you go to totallifecounseling.com/subscribe, that's how you can just say, hey, I just want the free video, and that's fine too. Okay. So do that, and then we'll give you access, you know, hopefully by the end of the day or by Monday. All right. Glad to do that. So there's totallifecounseling.com/subscribe. Okay. So I have like 20 to 25 minutes to go through the drug. So I'm moving really fast here. I hope this is helpful for you guys. How about this? So I'm just going to spend a little bit of time on alcohol, because this whole talk is about addictions in the new millennium. Like, what are things that are grabbing us like today that weren't there 21 years ago, right? So we just talked about the electronic stuff. Like, that's crazy, right? And then look at this. Look at how they're marketing alcohol to kids. I mean, it used to be, like, I remember Camel cigarettes used to have a cartoon camel on it, and they marketed that to kids. And of course, there was all these lawsuits against Camel. And then they finally lost, and they had to change it. And then they finally took all those like ads out of car magazines and modeling magazines and like teen magazines because, you know, they weren't able to market to kids anymore. Well, look at what they have now. We have strawberry Ritas, margaritas, which they're good. I've actually had them. You know, they're really good, but they're marketing these things to kids. So look at this. You got like a bunny here at the bottom, honey bunches of hops instead of honey bunches of oats, and they actually use the same logo as honey bunches of oats. Okay, you have Captain Kush instead of Captain Crunch. So, and it's double IPA, which means that it's like, you know, probably about 12% alcohol versus most beer is 3 to 5% alcohol. Okay, so we have all these things being marketed to kids. How about this one? Butt chugging. Okay, that's interesting, right? Doesn't that look appealing? I mean, you know, I like to have a cocktail on the weekends, but I just never, I don't know. How do you taste it when you're doing it that way? You know, how do you, you can't enjoy it, right? That's just so sad. But you know, what's going on is if you're a college student, you can't afford alcohol. If you do it this way, you get the effects of it fast, wicked fast, because it bypasses your stomach, your kidneys, and your liver. So you can get alcohol poisoning really fast. And also when you're doing butt chugging, a lot of times people can't see what they're putting in the bong. This is basically a beer bong that they were drinking out of, and then with their mouth, and then they stick it in their anus, and then they put beer in there. But then sometimes people screw around and go, oh, let's get them really shit faced, and they put liquor in there, and then they're on their way to the hospital or they die. And this is happening quite a bit. You're not hearing about this a whole lot in the news, but this is on, I believe it's on abc.com. You'll see that this was reported, like how kids are getting drunk back. This was 2012, I think, when this started happening. Vodka eyeballing. Oh, what's that? Well, it's just another way to bypass your liver, your stomach, and your kidneys, which helps to minimize how fast you can get drunk, right? So the vodka eyeballing bypasses all of that. And again, you can't taste it, and you're putting straight vodka in your eye, and it goes right in, and you're getting drunk really fast. So how about this one? Hand sanitizer. So, you know, instead of a vodka, you know, Moscow Mule, how about a Purell Moscow Mule, right? I mean, this is just insane but I mean, people are doing this 120 proof hand sanitizer, and vodka is 80 proof, and they're just drinking it straight, and they're getting drunk. And of course, all the chemicals in there. I mean, it's just, you know, not healthy, not good for them. So, so that's another thing that they're doing. Vodka soaked gummies. Again, wow, that's nice, you know, nice idea to market to young people. So it's just like Jell-O shots, but, you know, a lot quicker and I guess easier to make. And of course, you're not knowing how much alcohol you're consuming, you know, when you do that. And then this is really gross, but vodka soaked tampons, you know, so people, again, girls are inserting the tampons and getting drunk and bypassing again, those organs that help filter the alcohol and manage the effects of it. So it's really sad, guys, that people are resorting to those things, right? So let's talk about nicotine, okay? So here's all these devices. I'm sure you've seen these, right? And then there's like, you know, little the glass part here is where the cartridge goes, or they put the fluids in, the nicotine fluids. Sometimes there's no nicotine, and sometimes there can be like 36% nicotine, or 36 milligrams of nicotine, I'm sorry, in these devices, okay? And then they're being smoked at 180 degrees, and you know, they heat it up to 180 degrees. And of course, a lot of these devices are not UL listed, and they're blowing up in people's mouths and their faces, and their jaws are being broken. And there's been some deaths from it as well. I'm going to share with you guys. So how about this? Cell phone devices, you know, you can clip your Juul to your phone case. So everybody, you know, they think, oh, look at that. Those kids are carrying their, you know, their flash drive with all their school documents on it on the back of their phone. That's a great way to do that, right? Well, that's actually, you know, their Juul. I had a kid hit the Juul and suck on the Juul to get in, and 200 puffs is like how much is in a cartridge, and that's the 200 puffs is the equivalent of a pack of cigarettes of nicotine. And they had a guy he was doing 1 to 2 Juul cartridges a day. and he collapsed his lung because it's such a thin device. You have to suck really hard on it to get, the nicotine. So they made these look like a flash drive so that, they could hide it really easy. They can hide it in, they put compression pants on, like biker's pants, and they can put it in there and you can't see it. And then they, they can hide it. And of course, it's very appealing to them too, but when they make it really thin like that, it's also really hard to suck out the nicotine. The other thing that's happening is because most people that smoke cigarettes, it takes a little longer to get addicted to cigarettes than it does a Juul, because maybe the average person would smoke 5 cigarettes, one in the morning, one at lunch, one at their break in the afternoon, one after they get out of work, and one before they go to bed after dinner. So that's like 5 cigarettes, right? Well, these kids are able to hit this device all day long, okay? And then they just swallow the smoke and you can't smell it. Youth today feel safe with tobacco alternatives because they only contain nicotine, but they forgot that nicotine causes heart disease. It also causes lung infections, as I'm going to share with you as well, and releases dopamine, rewires the reward circuitry in their brain, right? Increases blood clots, dizziness, lightheadedness, disturbs sleep, nausea, because it's a stimulant, right? Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, heartburn, changes in heart rate, increased blood pressure, which then means increased risk of stroke. So I'm telling these teenagers, I'm like, man, you guys are going to be going to the cardiologist in your late 20s or early 30s. Because of, that you guys forgot that that's what this causes. And they've been told that nicotine does not cause cancer. And research up until this point, up until a couple of years ago, was pretty much, doctors were agreeing that nicotine was not causing this. I was getting ahead of myself. So basically you have 7 million people a year dying from nicotine. And if this pattern continues, it will be 8 million people a year. 480,000 deaths from cigarette smoking, plus 41,000 deaths from secondhand smoke. So the people around these people that are smoking, right? And 1 in 5 deaths annually, or 1 in 5 deaths every day and 1,300 annually. Smokers died 10 years earlier. 5.6 million of today's Americans are younger than 18 are smoking, and of course, we're going to die prematurely from a smoking related illness. Of course, I tell kids, like, when you get a job, if you check off you smoke, your insurance premiums are going to be higher. Not always, but a lot of times in the corporations, they do that. So how about this? The alternative to cigarettes is being marketed as safer method of smoking. Well, let me tell you this. When all those kids died from those expired Juul pods, and they went to the CEO of Juul at the time and asked them, where is your research saying that it's safer? Because they listed it on their website and they didn't have research, and he resigned. Okay. So, and RJ Reynolds bought 78 million or 78 billion, basically a lot of money, 76 billion or something in stock of Juul. So now, RJ Reynolds also was, responsible for the Truth Initiative that helped a whole generation quit smoking or not smoke at all. In fact, if you talk to teenagers about cigarettes, they're like, oh, right now they'll tell you, oh, that'll kill you, but they'll vape, not realizing that will kill them too, because they told everybody, oh, they said, look, you won't get cancer from this, but they didn't tell them about heart disease and lung disease. Okay, vaping is a new way, new to the market, and researchers have not had enough time. Now, this is interesting. These vaping devices, the researchers have not had time to check the effects of this, right? Well, what's interesting is the the U.S. Attorney Surgeon General gave the FDA an F grade in 2019 because of how badly they have dealt with these devices, and how it's now become an epidemic, and how quickly kids are getting addicted. And I mean, a significant amount. And actually what's happened is cigarette smoking has tripled since these devices. So it's actually led them, it's opened up those receptors for them to actually smoke an actual cigarette, because it's actually more satisfying to smoke a cigarette than just do like a nicotine, just get a dopamine hit. So what's interesting is Look at this. This is NYU, okay, did this study, and it was published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. Basically, exposure to nicotine from e-cigarette vapor causes lung cancer in mice. Now, guys, listen to this. This was a 1-year study. Think about this. When they do a study on a drug or any type of a device that has to go through the FDA for approval, because these devices were approved by the FDA. But if they would have done this research like they did on everything else, and they make it so hard to bring to market, stuff. I mean, the vaccine is like a crazy how fast that's coming, right? But I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with these vaccines in the next 6 years. I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna get but we really don't know. But because of the pandemic, we probably should do this, right? So, but when it comes to these e-cigarette devices, did they really have to just let them go? Yes, this is a great way to help people quit smoking. This is another way than just Cantex and Zyban, right? Or the nicotine patch. Here's another thing they can use. And they just went ahead and go, okay, let's do this. And sure enough, man, people got addicted. So let me say this to you. So basically 1 out of 1 out of 4 mice in this study actually got cancer. 1 out of 4 in 1 year. And they didn't have the vitamin E acetate that has been proven to cause a lot of problems. Well, what do you do with vitamin E? We usually put it on like a scar, and it helps to heal a scar. You can actually orally take it at room temperature, but we don't heat up our vitamin E to 180 degrees and then inhale it, vaporize it, inhale it, and let it then get back to room temperature. And when it does, as it's coming down in room temperature, it goes on the hairs of our lungs, and it starts to sear and singe and burn the hairs on our lungs. And then we get respiratory infection. Then we get pneumonia, which they call vape lung. Had one of my clients with 75% lung. His lungs were full, 75%, because of the infection he got. This was like just a year and a half ago. Okay. So this is so sad. So, how about this? 23 out of 40 mice, 57.5% got hyperplasia in their bladder. So they're getting tumors on their bladder that then later leads to cancer. So guys, this is not good. So now you have a study saying that e-cigarette vapors causes nicotine, and it is just the nicotine vapors. They're not putting anything else in there, any other ingredients like the glycanol that cause the popcorn lung and all that. None of that, right? So this is really sad that the FDA, how did they do that? I feel bad for Cantex and Zyban and the nicotine patch that had to go through the 6-year studies to get approval through the FDA. But somehow these devices, I don't know who they paid off. I don't know who they lobbied to do this, but this has caused an epidemic. And I'm worried about it because of my own kids, guys. I'm really worried about this. So think about this. When they did a study, if Cantex, Zyban, and the nicotine patch did their study in the first year on rats, is where they start, right? If they would have cancer, do you think they would have kept going with the study? The answer is no, they would not have, correct? Let's say it made it past the mice and then went to pigs and then they got cancer, what would happen to the study? It would be done. It would be over. So these devices should never have been approved. And it's really bad what it's doing to our next generation. It is so, so sad. Let me show you a quick video, and then I think we need to, well, you know what? Okay, you guys can watch this on YouTube. It's smoking versus vaping. It's a really interesting video that's good to show to kids too, okay? Here's some of the things that's in the vaping devices. I'm just running out of time. I'm really sorry, guys. Vaping and toxic, all these different things like cadmium, and that's from batteries, and lead, all these things, because these devices are being made black market, most of them, okay? And they're not UL listed, and they're not made to, the metals are not made to handle 180 or 190 degrees, okay? So that all these devices are just melting, all the paint, some of the wiring, some of it's shorting out. Some of the kids are making their own chargers because the parents take away the charger and throw it away, and they'll take a cord and they'll strip it down and they'll wire it themselves, and then they're burning down their houses with these devices. So it's really something what's going on with this, okay? So here you can see the death rates. Of course, 29 samples had vitamin E acetate, so most people are taking that out, but that is what makes the fluid like liquidy and oily, is the vitamin E acetate, okay? So there are people that are black market that are still using this, and it's causing tremendous lung damage. But remember, in this study, there was no vitamin E, there was no glycanol, there was none of these chemicals, just no flavors, no propylene, just e-cigarette nicotine. So here's the deaths. We've got we've got all these, the numbers. You can see the numbers are going up. To 2017, it was 11. 2018 was 21. Middle, so it just keeps going up and up and up. And we're seeing, youth are 4 times more likely to try cigarettes because now they're opening up those pathways. And of course, cigarettes are responsible for 22% of new cigarette use, 15.3 of current use, which equals 200,000 new members. And then here's where the statistics are. In 2012, cigarettes, e-cigarettes, use of e-cigarettes every day raised from 2.4 to 5.2 to 7.6 now in 2018. Okay, popcorn lung is because of glycanol. That's what gives the buttery smell to popcorn, or at least it used to, and it was giving popcorn lung to people in the popcorn manufacturing factories. And they removed that from there, but they're putting it in these vaping devices. Again, the black market people are doing that, but the they're trying to get the people that are commercial like Juul have removed a lot of that. Juul also removed flavors, but they kept menthol, and menthol is the most addictive of all their flavors. Okay, so you have, look at this, heart problems. I think this is Harvard Health that talked about this, where the Truth Initiative causes chronic cough, phlegm, bronchitis, pneumonia, lung disease, asthma. Okay, so people, e-cigarette linked to cancer. In another study in 2019 found that if exposed e-cigarette aerosol for 54 weeks, it can develop carcinomas of the lungs and abnormal bladder cell function. There's the bladder again, right? Addiction-wise, the amount of nicotine needed to establish an addiction is estimated at 5 milligrams a day, or roughly 1/4 of an e-cigarette pod a day. And my client was doing it 1 to 2 times a day, a whole pod, okay? There's the Juul, smoking's bad for you, according to their site. You can go to their website and see it. It's bad for your health, and those who don't currently use nicotine should not start. Okay, guys, don't do this. Of course, you tell a teenager what not to do. What do? They're gonna do it. We did not create Juul to undermine years of tobacco control, and we do not want to see a new generation of smokers. We believe Juul can accelerate cigarette displacement. So guys, we fast forward, if we can let these guys keep doing business, it's going to be another 20 years. Our kids are going to have lung cancer, heart disease from all this. Then they're going to make Juul do a truth initiative and educate another generation not to do it. Who knows? They'll probably find another way, to put this on our kids. But I mean, nicotine is one of the hardest substances. Like whenever I have clients trying to quit both, they try to quit pot first. It's way easier to quit pot. Still hard and addictive because of the THC content, right? But it's way easier to do that. So here's, speaking of THC, look at how they market this to kids. Now, by the way, Dank does not have a website. Dank is all black market. And this is what's marketed. This is on Instagram. And that's how the kids are ordering this. That's why parents need to be on the kids' Instagram accounts. And so they can see what their message is, okay? But they're buying Dank off of somebody on, on an Instagram account with no address, no website, no phone number, no business license, and they're putting in whatever they want. They got high amounts of pesticide according to International High Life. International High Life is a pot magazine, pro pot magazine, and they take a lot of these products that are on the web and they lab test them to see if they really do have 90% THC. And they're so disappointed that they only have it's not 90%, but it's still good enough to get you high and happy, okay, is what they say. According to the Truth Initiative, each Juul pod contains nicotine equivalent of 1 pack of cigarettes. Oh, that's the nicotine again. Let me skip. Oh, let's go back. So here's the dab, guys. These dabs have, you know, up to 90%, 85% to 90% THC. 20% found in high. 20% is what's found in high grade marijuana, and up to 30% of high grade marijuana. In fact, a lot of what you find in the dispensaries is 20 to 30%. In the state of Florida, in 2018 and in 2020, the House of Representatives for Florida tried to say, guys, if we make it recreational marijuana illegal, we want it 10% or less, because anything over 10% THC causes psychosis from studies. Okay, well, again, people aren't reporting this, people aren't talking about this, but of course the Senate shot it down because they're being lobbied by the pro-pot people. And if they did go to 10%, they would have to burn down all the crop fields and start over again and try to find the seeds, you know, for like the lower THC pot. By the way, I've had kids with out-of-body experiences with these dabs. I had a guy walk around Chipotle naked, you know, when he got something foreign in this device, in his dab. He got the same dab from the same person for 8 years straight. And I warned him 2 weeks prior. And he, you know, was a high school buddy and he trusted him. And this guy didn't, you know, what? It's interesting that a drug dealer wouldn't really manage what he's given his clients. I'm being facetious. But because the guy was always high, how do you do that? How do you check everything and check the quality of everything and make sure it's all right? Well, he got something bad in there. They didn't check for, what is it? That really bad thing that they're putting in heroin. They didn't check for that bad. Let's try, I'm having a, yeah. Anyway, I'll think about it in a minute. But basically they tested them and they did a small panel, but that panel did not test for that substance, right? That they make in China. That, you know, you just need a little bit and it can kill you. Anyway, but he basically what he, you know, what he found was that the cops, you know, found him at Chipotle. He had gone back to his house. The drug dealer put his clothes back on him, and then, you know, it sent him back to Chipotle. And then the cops were there. They cuffed him, put him back in the car, and then they put him in the hospital because they could tell he was in a really bad state of mind. He actually texted his parents that he's going to kill himself. And the mom texted me on Saturday, you know, and so they were so, I mean, it was a really scary day, and that scared the bejesus out of him. And he finally quit smoking. Finally, it took me 2 years. It took that situation for him to quit. Okay. Anyway, guys, we're getting to the end here. You know, there's so much here, guys. CNN reports on Colorado, and Colorado's having, you know, basically higher crime rates the whole time they legalized marijuana, you know, and they thought that crime would go down because they put less people in jail, but actually their jails got more, you know, and, you know, their jail time increased. You know, homelessness went up with legalizing marijuana, and it's young people. It was college students and young adults, you know, that wanted to get baked, and they dropped out of school, or they lost their scholarships, or were on academic probation. Homelessness went up. Foster care were overwhelmed, and they had to ship kids out of Colorado to other states, homes, you know, and then how do the parents get their kids back? You know, because you got to do visitations, you got to do your plan, your DCF plan to get your kids back. How do you do that when your kids are living out of state because the foster care system is overwhelmed? And I know this because I'm a speaker for the National Foster Care and the state, you know, foster care organizations. So it's really sad what's happening, guys. And I really don't want to push this. I really wish they would backpedal on this and take more time, you know, with this. Okay. I don't have time. This is a funny video I show kids about like what THC does to you. It's an SNL video when de Blasio took marijuana and made it, you know, said you could have 25 grams on you and not be arrested. Okay. Here you go. Let me see here. Okay, here you go. A 20-year study tested over 38,000 samples of marijuana, found that THC kept going up and CBD went down. The ratio of THC to CBD went from 14 times to 80 times. Now, guys, I want you to know something. CBD, when pot was like this much THC and that much CBD, CBD helps seizure disorder, helps anxiety, can help depression, can help inflammation, for cancer, right? It's amazing, right? And this actually causes seizure disorder. THC, it causes anxiety, causes paranoia, right? So when you take marijuana and you increase the THC, the ratio of CBD drops. So now, the CBD is not enough to fight all the side effects of the high THC. And people are having out-of-body experiences, bloody, gory dreams about killing their parents, and they love their parents. Walking around naked at Chipotle, so this is really sad. It's so sad that they're telling their kids that, hey, it's not addictive. And of course, pot wasn't addictive when it was 0.74% THC in the 60s, and people were getting high and baked and stoned back then. So now it's like 30 times that if it's just regular weed. And then if you get carts, it's like up to like 75%, and the dabs is like 90% THC, guys. So it's really, really scary. All right, guys. So let's wrap it up there. Do you guys have any questions? Let me stop sharing my screen here.
Oh, so I'm sorry, Jim. I think unfortunately we're over time for questions.
Okay, got it.
Is that accurate, Summer?
Yeah, we are. We're over. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's okay. So is there any way that they could ask you like another way or anything if they need to?
Let's see. Okay, got it. I didn't even see the chat saying people are starting to leave. Sorry, Summer. They can email me. I think the email was on the website, the info at totallifecounseling.com. If you have any questions. And again, we're going to give you guys that video. Just email or subscribe. That makes it easier because all we have to do is click a little button and we can give you access right away to that video. It makes it easier. Just subscribe. Don't type info at Total Life. Hey, can I get the free? Please do the subscribe button on our website. It'll make it so much easier for our staff. They will love you so much for that. But if you have a question, that's fine. You can email us. Okay?
Okay, thank you so much, Jim. That gives me a lot to think about for my son too as he grows up. So that was really good information, and my clients.
Great.
And thanks to all our virtual participants. Please keep in mind that if you're interested in accruing continuing education units for your participation in this training, you need to complete a post-presentation survey and quiz, which will be sent to your email as long as you have pre-registered for the event. We look forward to seeing you for another exciting presentation next month. If you have any questions about CEUs, please feel free to reach out to Summer Katz, MHCCF Education and CE Chair at ce@mhccf.com. So thanks everybody for joining us. Please check us out at mhccf.com to browse and pre-register for our next virtual event today. And we also welcome you to take advantage of our on-demand webinar program, now available to MHCCF members as well as non-members. May we all continue to be healthy and safe. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. And this talk will also be available as a on-demand. So thank you again, Jim.
Okay, I did a direct message to you, Summer, because I didn't mean to do that, but I put some links in there if you want to go ahead and cut and paste it to everybody, because they're asking for some stuff there. So I went ahead and did that. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks again, guys. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you. You guys be blessed and stay safe. Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
All right.
Thank you, Jim.
You got it.
It was a great talk. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much.